Well, Mark, this season it's been fun for us with our friends from Movember, as Movember is the official men's health partner for us on Golf Talk Canada. And Mark, one of the really cool things about our show is the three of us, you, Bob, and I, are all three different ages, three different demographics, if you will. So, not even from a mental health perspective, but from a golf perspective, everything, it's cool to find out what we like and what we like differently about all walks of life, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of what we always say, right? Like golf is good for you, but I mean, it's good for you in so many different ways. Obviously, I love to see people walking. I think on in North America, on this side of the world, we kind of got fell into a trap, don't you think? Like the golf cart replaced the caddy, and people stopped walking. And it's great to see people walking again, and caddies coming back in the game. But I think it's just so good. I mean, the walking is certainly a health aspect of it physically, but to me, from a mental standpoint, from a mental health standpoint, when I walk, it just slows everything down. I don't know. Like, do you feel the same way? I mean, I find the game in a cart, the pacing is different. It's not as relaxing. I'm not as kind of one with nature, for lack of a better term, as I am when I'm walking a wonderful property.
I totally agree. You're more in the game, if you will. Sometimes if you're in a cart, you hit your shot, you drive right up to your ball, you go again. Or if it's slow, you're waiting so much longer. But when you're actually walking to your ball, you're more in the shot. You're thinking about your shot. You have so much time to really take in all that's around you. And I'm glad you mentioned that walking too, because for years I was a carrier and now I'm a pusher using a push cart. And from a health perspective, they say most of the time anyway that pushing is better for you in terms of your back. But the cool thing about walking on a golf course is like, and any age can do this, right? Like it's if you're 30, if you're 50, if you're 70, as long as you're in good health, your knees are good, that sort of thing. Walking on a golf course, quite frankly, is good for you.
My dad turns 81 in November, Scully, and he walks, a ridiculous amount. There's days where he does over 30,000 steps a day. Like myself, he also doesn't carry his golf bag, but I'm like you, we push. And I think if you keep moving's so important, especially as you get older. But I mean, the whole thing about the game, I talk about this all the time, and it's my dad who introduced me to the game. And I talk about this all the time with him, like, what would I do? What would I be doing right now with my life if I was never introduced to the game of golf? Like, I'm wondering, like, what would I be doing for a living? More importantly, I wonder if, like, would I have seen all the different parts of the world? Like, think of the traveling that you, Bob, and I have done in for you, the last decade,
Mhm.
for Bob and I, the last few decades. We'll leave it at that. But I mean, standing on the cliffs in Ireland, being by crystal blue Caribbean Sea in Casa de Campo, being in the northern coast of Scotland in July, being able to play golf at 2 in the morning at Royal Dornoch, because it never truly gets dark. It just gets dusky. It's like when I think of all the different parts of the world I've been able to see because of golf, and the time you get to spend with people that are important to you. I mean, time is the most valuable asset, the commodity we have, it seems, right now,
Mhm.
because to get 5 hours with someone somewhere is, it's almost impossible, but yet people find time through golf to do that, right? Going to Carlsbad with our friends at
Yep.
TaylorMade and getting that time. I mean, you, Bob, and I never really get to physically be in the same room. It happened, with the exception of Canadian Open Week, it happens like less than 10 times a year now, it seems, unless we are on a golf destination, unless golf is bringing us or forcing us this time together. So I think it's so healthy on so many different levels, right? I mean, the obvious is the activity one. It's a sport you can play until your 80s and keep moving and stay out there. But all those things we talked about, that it brings to your life. It brings you around the world. It brings you with people that you want to spend time with. It introduces you to people you don't know. It introduces you to parts of the world and the food and the culture that comes with that. That in some cases, and in many cases, a guy like me would never have ever had the opportunity to be there and see that. So, I mean, it's good. This is kind of a reflecting thing in a way, Adam. Like, we never get to stop and think about this stuff and get and have gratitude. It's gratitude is what
It,
it is. And
yeah, it's
yeah.
totally gratitude, and it's so cool to whether you have your weekly foursome that you go out every Saturday or Sunday, or those tuning in if you play once a month or 3 times a week, whatever it is, you use that time to check in with that foursome with your friends.
Mhm.
How was your week? How are you doing? How is your family doing? Because as we know, things change very quickly, and it's such a cool point too about travel, in that golf brings us so many opportunities and brings us to so many different parts of the world and see different cultures. And that's really what is has all started from golf, and which is so cool. And one of the other really cool things about golf too, from a mental health perspective, is that whether you're myself, whether you're Scotty Scheffler, who's a +7 index, he claims, or you're a 22 handicap, you can play golf with any different skill level and go out and have fun.
Yeah, it's great. And that's what Scotty was even talking about, right? He
Yep.
playing with everybody at his club as a +7. And the mental health side of golf and golf being good for you too, in a way, Adam, it's funny. It's golf can also be a challenging game, right?
Mhm.
And a cruel game at times if you lose gratitude and you lose perspective. And I have battled this throughout my relationship with golf. When I was a younger guy and wanted to play golf for a living, I really struggled with anxiety on the golf course. And it's funny that we're having this conversation last week when Bob and I played in Deer Ridge. I said to Bob, Bob, there's still like probably once or twice a year that anxiety rears its ugly head on a
Yeah.
golf course with me. And it's bizarre. It's like it'll basically be 3 hours, 4 hour experience of not being able to breathe properly. Like, I don't know how to explain it to people, but it's like you're out doing something you love with people you love, and somehow, um, 4 hours you're uncomfortable. And it doesn't happen often anymore. It happens like once in the blue moon. But back when I thought, okay, this might be something I want to do for a living as a late teen or someone in my early 20s, I lived through this all the time. And if you really asked me to say one thing, what stopped you from pursuing the game for a living, I wouldn't tell you work ethic. I wouldn't tell you talent. I wouldn't tell you opportunity. I would have told you mental health. I
Yeah.
would have told you the inability to deal with anxiety, the inability to feel comfortable, and not pursuing advice, expertise, help in those categories. Which now we talk all the time. We talk to these guys on PGA Tour Canada, PGA Tour. They have teams of people working through all this stuff. That would be the one thing if I could go back 30 years ago and point it. And it still comes to this day. To this day, it raises its head. But when it goes away, when you have perspective and
Yeah.
gratitude, that those two things truly make it go away. And I guess that's the beauty of turning 50, right? To talk. I mean, 21-year-old Mark had no perspective. The most important thing in the world was the next putt or the
Yep.
next shot.
Mm-hmm.
Where
Mm-hmm.
50-year-old Mark goes, man, how lucky am I to be here with Adam, be here
Yep.
with Bob, be here with my dad, be there with my wife, my son.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a healthier way of looking at the planet, isn't it?
It really is. And from my perspective, I was never good enough, or I've never been good enough, I should say, to try to take my game to the next level, try to play it for a living. The lowest I got down to was about a zero point 0.4 index, not that I'm counting or anything, back in 2020 in the COVID season. But I've generally hovered around I'd say less than a 6 index or lower, probably since I stopped playing hockey, really. And I stopped playing hockey going into grade 12 when I was 17 at the time. And when I was younger, I would maybe call it a hothead, maybe a temper, maybe just expectations were through the roof, where I thought I was this great hockey player. I thought I should be a great golfer at the same time. And that perspective really comes into play. Nowadays, I'll go out and maybe it's not the best day, but in terms of performance, but you have that perspective to take it in that, hey, I'm out here with my buddies. I'm out here having a good, fun competition. We're out together, winning member guests left, right, and center as we've done, really enjoying that. But the golf and mental health really tie in really well together. And I know our wide demographic here on GTC thinks that, and our wide demographic of audience, both TV, radio, podcasts, they all think the same thing as well, Mark. Now, before we sign off here, sticking with our theme of Movember, hey, we're about 6-7 weeks away or so from mustache season. How excited are you to grow the muzzy for a great cause?
Well, it's going to be interesting for this guy because you know me, I'm constantly just, I can close my eyes and grow facial hair whenever I feel like it. On top, not so much. But I have not just grown the straight muzzy
Oh,
ever. I always have like a little soul patch
yeah.
or a little goatee or some side beard. So to go full Tom Selleck, to go like full out here, this is going to be interesting. And um, I'm curious to see how big this gets
Yeah.
and how much we can grow it out for a great cause. And you know what? Before we wrap here, too, I want to give a shout out to our partners at Movember for kind of, November is the month, and that is like the monster call to action, and that's what we're calling on our audience to do. We're calling on our audience to get involved and participate. But there's great work being done all year for men's health. The people at Movember, our friends at Golf Canada with the Golf is Good campaign, our sponsors that all get involved with this stuff. So let's give them their flowers. This is a great time of year to applaud. And the best way to really applaud them is to get involved, right, Adam? To sign up, grow the duster, grow the stash, get involved, get your family involved. It's this is the time of year to go full green light. So
Yep, it certainly is, Mark. And for us on GTC, we'll all be growing the mustache and we'll have a fundraising page to raise as much money as we can towards men's health. It's been a fun one today, Mark, an important conversation talking about golf and mental health, tying them together and growing a mustache for Movember. As always, Mark, thanks for your time, and we'll see you on the golf course soon.
all right, buddy.